When writing a family history book, where do you put your citations? Let's talk about that in this video. Well, this is when a lot of debate comes in. We need to include a citation, but where are we going to place it so it's not distracting from the story? Now, I'm personally of the opinion that you should use chapter endnotes or book endnotes depending on the type of book you're using. We'll talk about children's books and children's chapter books in a little bit. If you're trying to write for an adult audience that's a general audience rather than a scholastic audience, you have to move the citations away from cluttering up the bottom of a page. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. When you're drafting, put your citations anywhere you need them to be. Sometimes you're going to add a comment, and maybe this citation is very briefly going to be Harrison Township. And that's just to remind you that it needs to go there and you can polish it up later. So you can use a comment and know I need to put a citation here. Another thing you can do, there is a statement right here. The Whig Party advocated the rule of law and written in unchanging constitutions, yada, yada, yada. Here is my citation, but for the purpose of the draft, I'm just going to put it here. Notice it's a draft and I'm going to make my lovely citations later. You should always postpone crafting your citation until your book is written and stay in the writing mode until it's time to format and edit your book, and then you can make everything look pretty snazzy. So once you're done drafting your book, it's time to format your book. And where are you going to put your citations when you format a book? Well, I like to write biographical novels, but not in a nonfiction tone. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did that. So this is the PDF version of my book, just so it makes it easier for you to see it. I'm going to scroll down until I get to a citation. The very first page has a citation. There's an I for a citation and a 1 for a footnote, and there's another citation. Notice how it's not cluttering up my story. At the bottom, we have the footnote. Now the footnote, you can see right here, it talks about there's a little bit of debate over when his birthday took place. I could put it there or I could put it in the appendices of the book. However, a footnote is just there to give a little bit of clarifying information. But instead of having all of this section from it is believed all the way to the bottom filled with source citations, I'm going to go to the end of the chapter. And now I have all of my source citations for this first chapter. Now, the reason I do this is because I have found people who have read my books who want to see the citation, want them right after the chapter is over. And then they go to the next chapter and then they see the source citations right there. You can't put them all at the end of the entire book, but this is a 90-page book and the citations are pretty lengthy. And my readers have told me they like them right at the end of the chapter, and I tend to agree. If I'm very interested to know more about the politics that this chapter discusses, the politics of Baden, then I want to have the citations pretty handy. But most importantly, for those who are not going to be interested in the citations, they're going to read a story and they'll quickly learn to ignore those citations because they don't really, those citation notes, because they don't really clutter up the story. Now, if you're writing a short story or a children's story, like a chapter book or a picture books, then I would highly recommend you curate your bibliography form of your citations and put it at the end of the book. I've also done this for some of my scrapbooks. I just print off a page of citations and stick it in the back, and then that way the citations are there, but I don't put any superscripts. I just leave all the citations at the end. The story is short enough that this works. Now, what do you think? What are some of the ways that you Put citations into your writing without distracting the general audience reader.